In a quiet corner of the city, where old brick buildings leaned toward one another as if sharing secrets, autumn arrived slowly, and then all at once. The air grew colder. Rain tapped gently against the windows. Leaves loosened their grip and drifted downward, one by one. Inside a small, dimly lit room, a young woman lay motionless in bed. Her eyes were open, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She was counting the leaves, because in her mind, each falling leaf marked something more than the passing of a season. It marked the slow, inevitable end of her life. Her name was Johnsy. Once, her laughter had filled the room. Light, careless, full of dreams yet to be lived. She had spoken of distant cities, sunlit streets, and paintings that would one day hang in quiet galleries. But illness has a way of rewriting every future. It arrives without warning, settles deep within the body, and slowly begins to erase what once felt certain. At first, Johnsy believed she would recover. She listened when the doctors spoke. She nodded when Sue reassured her. But days turned into weeks, and with each passing night, her strength faded. Not all at once, but in quiet, almost unnoticeable ways. Breathing became effort. Sitting up felt impossible. Even hope grew heavy. The room grew smaller, as if the walls themselves were closing in. Time slowed, measured only by footsteps in the hallway and the ticking of an old clock. And then, her attention shifted. Outside her window, clinging stubbornly to the cold brick wall, grew an old ivy vine. Its leaves trembled in the autumn wind, fragile and worn. At first, she watched them out of boredom, then out of habit. Soon, watching became counting. One leaf fell, then another. Each time it happened, something inside her loosened, as if a thread tying her to life had quietly snapped. She began to believe the vine was speaking to her, telling her a truth she could not escape. When the last leaf falls, she whispered one evening, her voice barely stronger than the rain against the glass, "I will go too." To her, it no longer felt like fear. It felt like certainty. She stopped asking about tomorrow, stopped wondering about spring. In her mind, life and the vine had become the same thing, and both were running out of time. Sue sat beside the bed, watching the slow rise and fall of Johnsy's chest. Each breath felt fragile, as though the air itself might decide not to return. She had memorized the rhythm of those breaths, listened to them in the silence of the night. Once, they had talked for hours about art, about life, about places they would go together. Now, words felt dangerous, too heavy, too late. Sue brought soup that went untouched. She opened the curtains to let light inside. She spoke gently, carefully, choosing each word as if it might break something fragile. "You'll paint again," she said softly. "Spring will come." But Johnsy's eyes drifted past her, toward the window. Always the window. Sue followed her gaze and saw the ivy vine again. Its leaves clung desperately to the wall, trembling in the wind. She hated that vine, hated the way it had become more powerful than medicine, more convincing than love. When Johnsy finally spoke, her voice was barely sound at all. "There are fewer leaves today." Sue's heart tightened. She smiled anyway. "Leaves fall," she replied. "That's what they do." But Johnsy shook her head slowly. "When the last one falls," she whispered, "I will go too." Sue turned away, pretending to fix the blanket, pretending not to hear the words that echoed inside her mind. She stepped into the hallway and closed the door quietly behind her. And there, alone, she broke. Tears fell without sound. Her hands trembled. She had always believed love could save people, that care and patience were enough. But standing in that narrow hallway, Sue felt something she had never known before. Complete helplessness. Loving someone who had already decided to let go was like reaching for a hand that refused to be held. And for the first time, Sue wondered if hope could truly die, long before the body does. Behrman had lived in the building for many years, long enough to watch faces change, dreams arrive, and quietly disappear. He was known as an artist, though no one could remember his greatest work. Canvases filled his small studio, some half-painted, others abandoned completely. Each one carried the same promise. Not finished yet. For decades, Behrman had spoken of a masterpiece. Something bold, something lasting. He believed it would come one day, when inspiration finally arrived. But days passed, then years. His hands grew stiff, his body heavy, and slowly, hope became habit rather than belief. When Sue came downstairs that evening, her face pale and her voice unsteady, Behrman listened without interrupting. She spoke of Johnsy, of the leaves, of a strange idea that had taken hold of her friend's mind. Behrman's brows tightened, his jaw clenched. Such foolishness, he muttered. Leaves don't decide who lives. But when Sue left, silence returned. And with it, a thought he could not push away. He imagined the girl upstairs, counting leaves in the dark. And suddenly, his unfinished paintings felt small. What good was art if it never reached the moment it was needed most? Behrman stood slowly. His joints protested. He reached for a brush. Not with excitement, not with joy, but with resolve. Outside, the wind began to rise. Rain whispered against the windows. Somewhere above him, a young woman waited for the last leaf to fall. And for the first time in his life, Behrman knew exactly what he was meant to paint. Night fell heavy and without mercy. The sky darkened until the city seemed to disappear beneath it. Rain struck the streets in relentless waves, pounding rooftops, windows, and walls as if trying to wash everything away. Behrman stepped outside, the cold biting through his coat at once. Each breath burned his lungs. The wind pulled at him, testing his balance. Challenging every step, he moved slowly through the narrow alley, his boots slipping against wet stone. Above him, the ivy clung to the wall, its remaining leaves trembling, their stems stretched thin by time and weather. Behrman paused beneath it. He looked up, rain streaming down his face, mixing with something that might have been tears, or simply exhaustion. He thought of the years he had waited, years spent believing there would be more time. And in that moment, he understood something clearly for the first time. Some paintings are not meant to last forever, only long enough. He set the ladder carefully against the wall. The wood creaked in protest as he climbed. His hands shook as he reached for his brushes. Numb from the cold, stiff with age, each stroke of paint was deliberate. Slow, not beautiful, but necessary. Rain washed over the fresh paint, threatening to erase it before it could dry. Still, he continued, stroke after stroke. He fought the storm, the wind, and his own failing body. He painted not to be remembered, not to be admired, but because somewhere above him, a young woman was watching the wall, counting leaves, waiting for permission to let go. By the time the night began to fade, Behrman could barely stand. The ladder felt heavier than before. The rain no longer felt cold, only distant. And as he stepped back for the final time, the leaf remained, painted, still, defiant against the storm. Morning came slowly, filtering through the damp window with a soft, golden light. Johnsy stirred, her eyelids heavy, her chest rising more easily than the night before. She turned her gaze toward the window and froze. There it was, the leaf, still clinging to the ivy vine. For a moment, she could not breathe. A strange warmth began to fill her chest, something she hadn't felt for weeks. Hope. One day passed, then another. The leaf remained, stubborn and unwavering. And with it, a thought crept quietly in her mind. Perhaps life was not finished with her yet. Slowly, strength returned. Her fingers flexed. Her voice whispered again. She wanted to move, to sit up, to see the world beyond her window. Sue watched carefully, amazed, holding back tears. "You're going to paint again," she said softly. "You'll see the spring, Johnsy. You'll live." Johnsy's lips curved into a faint smile. Something small, almost imperceptible. But it was enough. For the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of courage, a spark of life. The world outside the window no longer seemed so lonely. It was full of possibility, of colors, of wind, of movement. And in that quiet moment, Johnsy realized that sometimes the smallest things, a single leaf clinging to a wall, can be enough to pull a person back from the edge of despair. The morning light bathed the small room in a soft glow. Johnsy turned toward the window again, her eyes lingering on the single ivy leaf. Outside, the world was calm. Rain had washed the streets clean. The storm had passed. But inside, something had shifted forever. Slowly, Sue spoke, her voice trembling with relief. "You're going to live, Johnsy. You're going to live." Johnsy nodded, a gentle smile forming, a spark returning to her eyes. Life had found her again, and then the truth came to her. The leaf had never been real. It had been painted by the old artist downstairs, Behrman, a man who had waited decades for inspiration, and who had risked everything to create a masterpiece. Not for fame, not for glory, but for hope itself. Behrman fell ill shortly after that night. He never recovered. His masterpiece would never hang in a gallery. No one would admire it, but it saved a life. And sometimes the greatest art is not measured by recognition, but by the souls it touches quietly in the shadows. Johnsy recovered slowly, each day stronger than the last. And though the world continued, full of storms and falling leaves, she would never forget the lesson of the vine, that courage, selflessness, and hope can appear in the smallest, most unexpected forms. Somewhere below, Behrman's brush had left its mark forever, and in that mark a story remained, of life, sacrifice, and the power of one small act to change everything.